Welcome back. So when we last left off, I had a problem still of the shimmy and the nose wheel, so I decided to read the manual, and there's some documentation that said that we needed to be running 30 weight fork oil in the fork. So here I'm draining out the this is mil spec 5606 that the guys at S&S had put in there, and actually it's just too thin of an oil compared to a 30 weight fork oil. So I managed to get some 30 weight oil. I had to go down to Summit Racing to get some, and while that was happening, I just basically drained the fork out, let it sit overnight, and then I blew it out with air as well, just drained it out that bottom drain hole. And as you can see, I got it fully compressed there, and I've got my little syringe set up, just sort of hung in place there, so now I can fill it up with the 30 weight oil. So there's what was in it, and it's a little bit dirty because of what all the dirt that was probably in there as well. You can see it's pretty kind of runny kind of oil there, and the 30 weight oil, just having a look at it, you'll see here in a minute, it's definitely a little bit heavier. So this is just moving it around without any oil in there, just to see how easy it moves. And there you can see it kind of has a bit of a centering mechanism as well when it's fully extended like that. Well, actually that is the centering mechanism for when it's fully extended. So there's the 5606 that was in it. You can see it's pretty runny, and I didn't have any just that I poured in a container of the new stuff, but this is what I got, this suspension fluid, which is fork oil, 30 weight, and I couldn't get a mineral oil without having to wait a couple of days to get it. This is all that they had in stock down at Summit, and that's a synthetic oil. And I figured, well, after talking with Britt, who knows quite a lot about motorcycles, he said it shouldn't be a problem. So here I am, and this is a couple of different times that I did this. If you can see up the top of the screen there, I'm just pouring some of that oil, the 30 weight oil, into the syringe, and it just sort of sits in there. And then I come back and pull the fork down, take the foam out from underneath the wheel and pull it down, and also turn it left and right. And I did this a bunch of different times in order to get all the air out of the system and get it filled up with oil. So here you see I'm going to twist the fork and at the same time take the foam out from underneath and allow the oil, you'll see the oil go down in the syringe there. And so that's slowly feeding it into the strut there. And I just did this several different times. And so this is what it looks like now. And actually with the oil that you're looking in there now has been sort of cycled in and out. So when I push the fork up, you see the oil that's in there, and it's a bit dirty in there because I didn't actually use anything to rinse it out. Maybe I should have done that. But anyway, all this is just sort of experimenting just to see. So I didn't want to spend too much time to see if this is going to fix it. But as you can see there now, it actually takes a little bit more effort to push that fork around, and that's the internal shimmy damper. Now the oil is actually going from one side of the centering block to the other when you do this, and that's what creates the damping effect. So, and the documentation says it should be somewhere between 20 and 50 foot-pounds to move that, and I'm not sure if that's while it's under pressure or when it's just sitting like that without any nitrogen in it yet. But you'll see in a minute I actually got the torque wrench on there just to check it. But yeah, you could definitely tell it's adding a bunch of resistance in there, and even without the nitrogen being put in there. So I went through a bunch of times and did that, and then as you'll see here in a second, got the torque wrench on there just to measure that to see how much I was seeing. But yeah, there you can see what's left over in the syringe there. So here I'm going to put the torque wrench on there, and initially I'm just going to turn it slowly and see what the value is on the torque wrench. And as you can see there, 11.8 foot-pounds. And so now what I did is I put it on there and moved it as quickly as I could, and to see what value that would be. And as you can see there, 20 foot-pounds, and I saw as high as 22 in doing this test. So anyway, there's some resistance. So I took it down to S&S and to get the nitrogen put in there. Just taxied it down slowly because it didn't have any gas in there, just the oil. And here you can see I put some marks on there. So the top mark there is 1 inch away from the top, and then the bottom one there is 1.5 inches. So you can see it's compressed about 3/4 of an inch already. And while that was all going on, I noticed too that this is one of the AC lines that I had some oil leaking around there. So something's going on there. And so I took it up to Brits, and you took the line out, took it up to Brits, and he replaced this one section that was welded by this other shop that did the AC lines for us, and they just butchered it. Really, it was horrible welding. You could see that there was probably some leaks. So here I vacuum tested it, and it was holding without any problems. But anyway, I did charge the system that you'll see here in a little bit. This is just doing a vacuum pull down on the whole system. I bought all the stuff that you need to get that underway. So that was Thursday afternoon. And I did that on Thursday afternoon because it was actually too windy. I didn't really want to take the aircraft out and taxi it around with a potential nose shimmy problem. So I was working on this AC line at Brits. So this is Friday morning now, and pulling the vacuum there on the system. And I did get it all charged up and everything, so but it was still leaking. But the winds were better. It wasn't as much wind, so I thought, oh well, I've got the nose strut sorted out, with the right fluid in there. So I thought I'd take it out and do a couple of runs there just before lunch. So this is the first run. Well, actually, I did a couple of runs. I think this is one of the last runs I did before lunch, just down the runway. So I'll let you watch this and see how that turns out. So we're hoping for no shimmy on the nose wheel. So as you'll see here in a second, I got it up to about 49 miles an hour. Again, it was just a sort of slow, gradual acceleration. I didn't, give it full power or anything like that. And just let it roll out. And there was no shimmy, not even a sign of anything. So there was a little bit of a crosswind there from the right. And I was just correcting with rudder. But just a little breeze. Although the windsock was kind of stuck in one area. I think our windsock's a bit damaged there at the airport. Anyway, fully controllable and no shimmy on the nose, so I was pretty happy about that. So it basically did about 3 runs on there, and then I figured, I want to go back and look at the video. So I took my break and went and had some lunch and uploaded all the video onto my laptop so I could have a look at it. And didn't see any issues of anything with the shimmy. So here's what the run looked like from in the cabin. I'll let you watch this. So as you can see there, no shimmy, so pretty happy about that. And as I said, I went and had some lunch. I also needed to get some more diesel because I was down to about 8 gallons in the header tank because the low fuel light had come on. So I took my jerry can and picked up another 5 gallons of diesel, and also got a little bit more regular fuel for my my tug, as that thing was moving the aircraft in and out. I was actually using a bit of fuel on that as well, and checked the video, and I didn't see any problems in that. So I thought, well, I'll come back after lunch and do a few more runs. So this is the fuel there that I bought, 5 gallons, so I put that in, and then took the aircraft out again. So I ended up doing 4 runs, and this is the second one. And excuse the camera angle. The little camera mount I have for that Garmin Verb camera isn't that great. Anyway, I'll let you watch this one. So again, even though I was waiting for it and kind of expecting it, there wasn't any shimmy, and that one got up to 57 miles an hour according to the Garmin GPS. And I believe, looking back at the video, the indicated airspeed on from the Garmin there was over 60 knots. Partly due to just lag or whatever, or the headwind or whatever. Anyway, so next up, this is the second last run, so I'll let you watch this one. Yeah, so I didn't get quite as fast on that one, only 43 miles an hour, but that was full power takeoff there, 3,800 RPM on the engine before letting go of the brakes. And you can see there by the acceleration on that little graph in the bottom corner there, it was pretty brisk. And so it's starting to get serious now, and I'm, believe me, paying attention to the airspeed that I'm seeing there. I just don't want to get this thing airborne yet, but I do want to find out if there is a shimmy, so I'm taking it through as quick as I'm comfortable doing it. And that was about all I had in me for that particular run. So this is what the next run looks like, but this time from the outside of the cabin. So this one was actually the last run that I did, and I ended up getting exactly 53 miles an hour again, the same as the previous one. So out of the last 3 runs, the first one was 57, and then the next 2 were 53 miles per hour. And this one still went sort of not quite full throttle on this, but I did get the maximum RPM, 3,800 RPM, but just not as much fuel being delivered there. so just not quite as much boost and stuff. And I haven't really had a chance to look in too much detail at the performance logs there from the ECU, and I'll have time to do that over the weekend more. But anyway, as you saw there, again with 53 miles an hour on that one, and totally controllable and no shimmy. So unless the shimmy's going to come in at a higher mile per hour or higher knots, I think we may have actually solved it. I mean, because I had crosswinds there and I was using the rudder to keep it lined up, and hitting some bumps and accelerating and decelerating, and didn't have any problems. So this is that same run again with the nose camera again, and I just did it in real time, no slowdown. But I'll let you watch this one and see if you see anything weird going on here. So now that the strut is just compressed at least an inch by default, it's riding better and it doesn't hit the centering stopping or the centering mechanism. I think that rattling was the nose compartment door had come unlatched for some reason. You might have seen that in the previous video where the camera was out on the wing. I've got to check in to see why that happened. Maybe hitting a bump or something, those latches aren't fully engaging. Anyway, so this is the view now from underneath the fuselage again. So you can see if there's anything weird going on there. And then finally I'll have the view from in the cabin again. But I'll let you watch this one. So I couldn't see anything weird going on there. Looks like, the wheel was doing similar to it did at last time when we had the shimmy. There's enough, movement, the crosswind and left and right across the runway, keeping it straight and, hitting some bumps and that. So I'm doing all the things that caused it last time, and the only difference is right now, I've got that different weight oil in there, and the fork isn't allowed to be fully extended yet. So anyway, maybe that could still be a problem if it's fully extended when the nose gets really light. And next up, actually, I'm going to show you here just what it looked like on the Garmin G3X. And I believe that sound you heard was the throttle actually hitting the back of the stop there when I pulled it back. And here's what it looks like finally from inside the cabin. And even though I only got to 53 miles an hour there, the indicated airspeed was showing about 60, 61 knots. So, you know, as I said, just being cautious. I don't want to get this thing airborne prematurely. But as you can see on the chart there, on the bottom left there, the acceleration's pretty brisk until I just basically cut the throttle. Anyway, so no signs of any shimmy. So the next step here is just to keep doing more testing like this and take it a little bit quicker, and then ultimately, probably if it starts, you know, if it's feeling comfortable and everything, I might see about just seeing if I can get the nose wheel off, you know, as long as it's controllable, and we'll go from there. And I just want to run some more hours on the whole system, so that's what you're going to see next. Anyway, that's the update for this week. No shimmy, so just going to keep moving ahead. Thanks again for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thanks again.